Greetings and welcome to another episode coming to you from the Thought Exchange Cafe. Today is going to be a very interesting show. My name is Tony Davis and I'll be your host, and this will be the first of many of the Thought Exchange Cafe Health Corner. However, we're going to introduce a few other things. Right now in the audience, I have with me Angela to my right, Aurelius Poe. I hope I said that right for
Pew.
first time. Pew.
Like church pew.
Okay, Church Pew in the audience with me today. And just a little background, Angela grew up in Singapore in America, trained in social work and psychology, enjoys reading, arts and crafts, cooking, and of course, eating what she cooks. I would like to try that. Aurelius grew up in Chicago, trained in social work, psychology, and philosophy, enjoys music, gaming, and conversations. And Angela Taylor is L.I. Angela, could you just tell us what that is, please?
LICSW, and I'm certified in dialectical behavioral therapy. So I'm a licensed independent clinical social worker, and I work with individuals doing therapy with them, like narrative therapy, talk therapy, um, different things, guided imagery, different modalities or things that I use in regards to the treatment that I use with clients.
Wow, that's amazing. And Aurelius, tell us about yourself.
Oh, yeah. So I'm also a licensed independent clinical social worker, or now I guess it's licensed clinical social worker. Either way, I mainly work with actually teens, young adults. I've worked with seniors, children, and then I also do work at Lena Park as a contractor, and soon, I guess, to return as a full-time employee.
And we're going to get back to you and talk about some of your experiences, right? and it
I don't
so
know.
I would like to let the audience know that I'm familiar with Mr. Pugh, and Mr. Pugh is a very amazing person. He has a great energy and a great spirit, as you will see as we go along in this episode. And now I want to come over to Angela. Angela, in this health corner, which is the first of many, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having you back here very, very soon. Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about the health benefits and the side effects of not eating properly?
So not eating has a lot of physical health effects, but it also has mental health effects. It's something I actually talk about with my clients quite frequently. Um, Particularly like as I work myself, I work with young children, teens, and adults. So I have a varied population. But something that I have observed is that regardless of the age, regardless of the gender, food is a thing for people. Either it's a thing that's filled with positivity, or it's a thing that they view as a struggle, or an inconvenience, or it's just something that they have to do in order to, be alive. Like I have people who tell me I only eat because I have to, not because I like it, not because I enjoy it, or anything of that nature. And so they don't view food as a pleasure, and that's understandable. That's a personal preference. That's your relationship with food. But food itself at its base root is something that we need. Your body is an engine, a computer, it's a vehicle, however you want to think of it. But
Mm.
just like anything that we use in the world around us, it needs some form of sustenance, fuel, battery, if you want to call it such, to work. And a lot of people don't think about how that impacts us. What we're putting into ourselves is effectively running your engine, right? So if you're putting in things that are not beneficial for your system, I think is the way I would put it, you might have long-term negative effects, or just short-term negative effects like constipation or stomach aches, things like that. Um, and I want to be clear with what I say next. Chemicals are a thing that make up everything in the world. There's a reason there's a periodic table. It exists in chemistry. We all know what chemistry is. We cannot discredit science. Okay.
Mm.
So chemicals make up you, they make up me, they make up this table, this mouse, everything. Um, but people think when they think of chemicals with food, they think that chemicals are always negative. They're not. Food itself is made up of chemicals.
Mm.
Broccoli is made up of chemicals. Water is made up of chemicals. In order to have water, you need H2O, which is two atoms of hydrogen and an atom of oxygen to therefore make up water. It's a simple, liquid, right? That makes up a majority of who we are. We're walking, talking cucumbers. And so, food, if you're not feeding yourself, how do you expect to go through the day? And what people also don't realize is that your body, if it's not getting food, is going to take something from somewhere. It still needs to run. So, it still needs to
Mm.
utilize fuel. So, if you're not sustaining it with fuel incoming, it is just going to work off of the dregs of what is in your body, which will be ultimately your fat, yes, but eventually your muscle, your tissues, your organs, and last but not least, one of the things that it loves to attack is your brain. So people don't realize a lot of times when they're going days and days without eating and they're not eating, I would say, full meals. They might snack here and there. They might eat, some biscuits or a piece of bread or a bagel. That is still yes food. But if you're not giving yourself proper food, like a proper meal, what do you expect your body to run off of? And then you get brain fog, you get headaches, you don't feel good, your muscles feel weak, you can't get out of bed. These are just side effects that your body is telling you, you're not giving me enough fuel, and now you're expecting
Mm.
me to run. We would never do that to a car. If I got my car down to E and I continued driving, I would damn well know that at some point that car is going to die on the side of the road. It's not negotiable. And in order to get that car going again, I'm have to find gas. Why do we not treat food in a similar fashion? Food is fuel. It is fuel for the body. Your body is a vehicle. And if you want your vehicle to go, 160,000 miles, you better do your oil changes and your and your fuel ups. And that's unfortunately something I think not everybody looks at it in that perspective. They look at it either, as I've said, with a very positive relationship, or some people just look at it in ways that they don't feel it's beneficial for them. But we can find like a nice middle ground, which I think would be better. We're looking at it as energy, fuel, resource for the body, it's sustenance. And then maybe take away some of, I know there's a lot of negative connotations, and I want to be very careful, by the way, when I say this. For
Mm.
individuals who have eating disorders and stuff, that is a very particular thing for them. And I'm not speaking on behalf of that. By the way, I'm just speaking on a
Mhm.
general premise. If anybody does have an eating disorder, please seek the appropriate resources for help for that, because that is something that is concerning and you want to, get the appropriate support for that. But in general, if we're talking about everyday, relationships with food that are non-consequential in that regard, that's what I'm talking about for the few.
Great. A realist, because Angela, we're gonna come back and we're gonna delve into that just a little bit deeper because there's a few questions I would like to ask you regarding some nutritional benefits from some roots or some herbs or some things like that that maybe you may be able to recommend and talk about certain things and some of their benefits.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm. A realist, with what Angela just talked about and being a licensed clinical therapist, you've encountered quite a few people, and you encounter them people on a daily basis. What have you encountered that kind of, you know, with what Angela talked about relating back to the food, to the brain, to the behaviors?
So when you first asked the question, I guess the first thing I thought about it was how they began those like breakfast in school programs, right? Because they were like, hey, people are going to school, they don't have a lot of energy, they need food. And that was a result because people weren't eating at home. One of the things that can happen is that when you don't eat at home or when you don't eat properly, some of the symptoms that are shared with mental health things might pop up, right? So immediately, the first thing I thought about was, as Angela said, uh, your mind being foggy, right? Low energy, which similar to depression. Depression also has those symptoms,
Mhm.
and they can go back vice versa, right? Because if you are feeling foggy, if you're feeling low energy, you're not feeling well, that can lead to depression. Even not sleeping can be
Mhm.
related to food, which could also lead to depression because, like, now, again, you're not feeling well. These are all things building up together that makes sense where it's like, all right, I'm not feeling well, and now I'm feeling sad as a result. And it might be harder for me to kind of get through that sadness. So, I mean, there's definitely a relationship between that and being healthy. Also, working with seniors, that was a major thing, was that folks weren't feeling well already, and then they weren't eating properly, and it just was a lot of depression going around. And one of the things they really lobbied for was better meals. And they flat out said, because if we had better meals, meals that made us feel better, meals that we wanted to enjoy more with better taste, we would feel better.
Mhm.
Direct correlation to each other. And that was like one of the major topics that would show up every monthly, like the monthly reports and meetings they had show up every month. It's just like, hey, I want to have better food because the food we're eating here is bland and I don't want to eat it. And that's like ruining my mood. Not only that, they wanted to lobby about like having more meals together because that's one of the things that unfortunately I think people don't think about all the time. I mean, I feel like it's better for younger folks um, and folks that kind of have better social connections. But in that facility, they weren't really thinking about how important it was that to even have meals together with people, even though you see them all day, right? These are folks that have been there all day during the rehab. They're over here living here, but just being able to share a meal together was important to them. So stuff when we did barbecues were important. Like it was like, oh, we didn't do the 4th of July. So the facility's thinking, oh, it sucks they didn't get to have like hamburgers and such. But no, when they brought it up, they're like, I didn't get a chance to sit with my friends that are upstairs I don't usually see and share a meal together. And that's what they brought up. And they didn't even think about that. It didn't even click. So
Can I tag into that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I worked at residentials when I first started in my career, the particular residence I worked at the time had it was all males, and we had about ten individuals who lived there. And the first thing that the my coworkers and I noticed was that nobody ate together. No one ate together at all. Like the guys would just drift in when we would cook, and they would just take their food and then they'd go eat wherever in the house, like outside, in the garden, while smoking cigarettes. They'd be
Wow.
eating in the living room, just staring at a wall. One would be watching TV. One would be up in his room. Like nobody was community eating. And something that we started to implement as colleagues together at the time was that we would cook meals together, but then we would encourage them to come eat, but we would go and eat with them sometimes. We would bring our own food and we would eat with them. And we started to notice that as time went on, there became an expectation from them that when dinner time came, they would start collecting each other and being like, dinner's ready. And then they'd come down and they're checking in with us when food was getting ready. So it became a very community thing. But not only did it do that in the regards of just encouraging people to eat, people were starting to eat more. Like, so the people who were picky were actually eating other things and more open to eating things that everyone else was eating because they were sitting in the same space. So seeing someone else trying something that you might not have tried encouraged eating. And we had a lot of picky eaters, let me tell you. We had to find ways to mush up vegetables, to put them into meatloaves and stuff because the individuals didn't want to eat certain things. So it also became a creativity process of trying to figure out how to make foods that were appetizing while being healthy, while being nutritious and balanced. That was the other thing was they would eat things that were not always balanced for them, right? So then when we were doing this in community settings, it changed the structure. And same thing like Aurelia said, when we didn't have like a cookout or something that had been planned, that the company was paying effectively for, right, for holidays, the guys would get upset and our boss would think it was just because they didn't have a party, and like we girls would have to step in and say like it's not because they don't get a party, it's because they're not with each other and they're doing something that's fun, that's different. I said, imagine if you spend 365 days in a house, and yeah, you go to day program, but you're in a house every day except for when staff takes you out to do something. Your only fun things are the parties, like for lack of a better term, because it makes
Wow.
it feel like a home, like an
yes.
environment, like a real community. Food is a large part of community, and that extends into so many capacities, especially in mental health. And the guys' moods change too when we would have these, fun gatherings. Like Thanksgiving became a thing, minus a few chaoses a couple times where fires would ensue when cooking, but it was fun.
A realist. You are here at Lena Park, being in the position that you're in. I've witnessed you talk about food and how to distribute good meals. Give us a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I think about immediately when you say that. One would be the senior meals where we had like a whole program around it in regards to making sure good food was given. So I guess I'll start with that one. So every year we usually give out senior meals, and those meals are made from a variety of different places, right? Sometimes it's individuals, like the chefs. Sometimes it's organizations. It kind of depends on what's going on, and then just not only what's available, but like folks we have connections with, and how it can be mutually beneficial. Last year, one of the people that we're working with who provided food in the summer, we're like, oh, it'll be a good idea. We already know them. We can give them more opportunity, help the community out, be able to pay this person. Then, you're helping a small business. Plus, they're then helping out the seniors. We should use them for the senior meals. But we always test the food first. And unfortunately, I'm not sure what happened between the summer and fall, but the meal did not cut it. Me, my coworker Rachel, and my other coworker Karen, we tried them. We everyone that brought a meal, we tried, and we're like, we called him like, hey, this is missing a flavor. Maybe you can fix this and that. And he's like, all right, the students made that one. I'll make the next one. And unfortunately, the next one was not great either. So, we had to tell that person. We gave them, of course, tips on how to get improved, but we're like, hey, we're gonna have to go a different direction. Just because one of the things we thought about is that, our seniors, a good amount of them get out, right? They can make their own food. Like we don't have folks in our apartments that are completely disabled. And if they do, we have someone that usually helps cook for them and stuff. But there's a certain level of expectation, right? Where if you're going to provide a holiday meal, like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas or a Kwanzaa, any of that stuff, there's a expectation there where you're expecting good food, right? Like I can't roll up to you with a flavorless hot dog on one of these holidays and be like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. It's food, right? No, like there's a certain expectation because it kind of goes back to what we were saying about culture. And also these are celebratory, right? These are celebratory meals that aren't normal meals. So if we're gonna give this, it gotta be high quality. Because if it isn't, we're gonna hear back from folks. And so we end up having to do Rachel and Karen and the teens here end up just making all the meals.
Oh my.
Yeah, they made 70 meals because Rachel was adamant that everyone that came to food was not good enough. And she's like, I will do it myself. Don't worry about it. Like, I'll just handle it because she was not having it. So they ended up making the meals. I ended up buying some stuff, but they spent 2 days making the meals for the seniors because that's how important it was to make sure that you give this good food and people feel good about it, right? And that helps with the legitimacy of Lena Park, but also just serving the community, right? You don't want to serve trash. I mean, that's critical for us here at Lena that we try to do our best we can to provide good programming in all aspects. Like that's how Lena works because we're so small. We try to make up for quantity with quality.
So I want to come back over to Angela. And Arilys, thank you for that. And we'll be back to discuss that a little bit more just as well, too. Angela, could you kind of give us so from my understanding, right, that you have experience with certain type of herbal medicines, herbal foods,
Hmm.
and could you give us a little bit of a brief description of these herbs and how they are prepared and what are some of the benefits that you have received from?
Okay. So I like to use a lot of either natural plants that I either grow myself, natural plants was a little bit of a repeat word there, but yes, plants that I grow myself, or I'll go and buy, herbs from the supermarket, or I use, fruits and vegetables and stuff because there's a lot of healing benefits to a lot of the things that we generally just that people I think are not necessarily aware of. And having grown up in Singapore and having a Asian background, particularly a Chinese background, I also have a lot of experience growing up with TCM stuff, which is traditional Chinese medicine, is what TCM stands for the acronym. Um, and so I have over the years sort of incorporated the Western aspect of holistic treatments with the Eastern aspect of holistic treatments to sort of make something that works for me. With Plants and stuff that I grow, I tend to find that I can, one, use them in cooking, which is wonderful, right? Like if I need something and I want some basil, I can just walk out onto the porch and I can go grab some. I don't have to go to the supermarket and go find it, like, and wait and hope that it's okay and not wilty and wet and soppy. I can just go and snip a little bit. But also the benefits of that is like when I've grown like tomato plants or squash plants, I can use different aspects of the plant. I'm not just using singularly the fruit that it bears, right? You can use the flowers that come off of there. You can use leaves. For example, people don't know that you can take tomato leaves and you can squash them up. And if you stick them in some water and you let them soak overnight, you can also put a little bit of isopropyl alcohol if you like in there. 70% usually works pretty well. 90% is very, very strong, by the way. Would highly recommend that. But if you do add a bit more water, only because it burns the leaf, but it draws out stuff from the plant that you can spritz as a bug repellent. And
Oh, wow.
yeah. So you could just use that from the tomato plant. Now, I wouldn't take the tomato leaf and just rub it on yourself. There's hairs on the tomato leaf that a lot of people do not realize will actually make a lot of people itchy. That's why usually when people go pick them, their arms will get a little bit itchy because you're sticking your hands in the bush. And so when you're like whittling around in there, there's little fibers on there that stick to you, like, and it's actually designed, if you think about it, the plant is technically a nightshade. So it's trying to protect itself from being eaten. So it's actually giving off its little fibrous things to you as the human because it doesn't want you to eat it. But that in turn can be beneficial when we now want to use it to repel bugs. So there's like, double ends on these plants, right? You can eat the leaves if you cook them. They're not Personally, I don't like them, but I've tried it once. Don't think I'll try that again. Like dandelion leaves. You can pluck dandelion leaves. Please do not do this from random gardens. I just want to say this very quickly. You don't know what's on people's gardens. If it's your yard, that's different. And you know what you spray on your own yard. But if you have dandelion leaves, you can eat those. And you can also uh, make teas from them, which is really great for digestion, sleep, blood pressure, especially if you have high blood pressure. When I used to have high blood pressure, I ate a lot of dandelion leaf salad. I would just get the dandelion leaves from the farmers markets and just chop it up, and I would toss it with a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of honey to cut the bitterness. Because I am gonna warn, it is quite a bitter particular plant. Like it's very sappy, is what it is. Yeah, I fed some to Aurelius one time. He was not impressed that I did
No.
that. I don't think he liked that. But there's lots of benefits to the plants around you. Turmeric has a lot of benefits to it. I used to do the shots of like turmeric and ginger and stuff. Now I just buy the turmeric and I throw it into my little blender with some peppercorn seeds, some ginger, some water, and if I feel like it, like a lemon or something. And then, sorry, didn't mean to hit your mic. And then I, just blend that up, and you can just drink that. I mean, there's so many different plants that are out there, and then let alone when you add in the Chinese aspect of the plants that we can use on that end. And so I have found a way to sort of like amalgamate the two different things together to work for myself as I've gone through my own health journey with like medical concerns in the last 2 decades, give or take.
We get it. It's kind of tough sometimes to say, where we are today versus where we were 2 decades ago.
Well, I don't mind that. I'm a proud 40-year-old. I am 40 and beautiful. I don't have a problem with that. I was just trying to think how long it's been. I was like, damn, has it been 2 decades of this nonsense? Yeah, you would
Yeah.
become well versed in something when it's been 2 decades of medical stuff. Because I've had a very long medical journey, which is what really put me on this. Was I have had a lot of health issues that were sustained from either injuries at my jobs or injuries that I sustained just being myself, um, and being a person. And so I've had to learn because Western medicine didn't always work. In fact, it had a lot more drawbacks to it in the long run, which have actually given me long-term health problems and health sensitivities to medications. And so now when I personally have to take meds, I have a long list of stuff I cannot take because apparently, come to find out, once you start developing sensitivities to medicines, it can extend to an entire family, very similar to allergies, but not the same as allergies. So it won't give you the same detrimental effect that an allergy would, where it might need an EpiPen or it might put you in the hospital or it might kill you. But it doesn't mean that the side effects that I'm having are any less pleasant, like less unpleasant, I should say. For example, like there's a medicine that if I took that, I have a friend who takes it for nerve pain. If I take it, I projectile vomit. And, like, for hours, I would just throw up and throw up, which who wants to do that? That is not a fun time for anybody. Like, personally, I like things going down and into my gullet and just staying there, not seeing it twice. So, it's been a learning curve to avoid, I think, a lot of issues with medicines.
Mm. A realist. I want to come back over to you just for a moment, right? Um, and I want to let the audience also know that here at the Thought Exchange Cafe, we bring you educational, motivational, inspirational information and content that you may be able to use in your daily life. So this is not about entertainment. Once again, it's about growing in life and learning some things and not just learning, but applying the things that you learn because applied knowledge is the best knowledge. And I want to come back over to you, Aurelius, really quick because I I want to talk a little bit more, all right? Because Angela, you said some amazing things, but you also opened up a door to a whole bunch of different dynamics, as well as changing that mental map,
Mm,
right? Of how a lot of us, including myself, thought about food and growing your own food,
mhm.
harvesting your own food and the health benefits behind that. You know, I look forward to having you back here again, right?
Definitely.
And being able to really delve a little bit deeper into that because
Sure.
the information that you have, one thing I've learned, there's a quote that says, we learn, we earn, and we pass it on. And a lot of
That.
people think we talking about monies, and we're not talking about
Mm-mm.
monies. We're talking about that knowledge that we have gained over time. But also, Angela, you talked about spending money for eye, right? A whole lot of money in eye in your licensing, right?
Mhm.
You put in time and energy that you cannot get back, but you
Mm.
had a it was for you, it was seeing the end of the road to something, and it
Mhm.
was worth it.
Yes.
And now you sit in a position, as well as Aurelia sits in a position where you're able to share that information and share that knowledge with
Mm.
others. And it wasn't just about you because now you're into life-saving mode
Mhm.
because that's what you do.
Yes.
You saves lives by changing the paradigm, the mental map, right? Same with you, Aurelius. You do the same
Mm.
thing. You change lives when they come into your office, or you have to go and see somebody. You have to kind of give them. You have to talk to them and allow and paint a different picture for them to see in order to begin to apply some of this information that you're giving, that you're conveying to
Mm.
them to make their life better, you know. Um so yeah, once again, that's what we do here at the Thought Exchange Cafe. A realist, back to you really quick, right? And what would you say to someone that is kind of going through right now, right? And having a tough time doing the best they can to kind of regain some of their mental capacity back from being in a place of um internal chaos.
So, me and Tony talked about this. Usually, I like to be more specific, you know, more information about the person, but in general, I guess it kind of depends on what went on. But I feel like the first step I would usually recommend is looking back to what worked before, right? I mean, usually you can start with a foundation and kind of build back up. A lot of times when people are going through internal chaos or they're going through depression or anything else, they've kind of lost their way to a degree. They tend to forget what's worked before because of there's just too much stuff going on, right? You're getting hit from all these angles. it sometimes takes a lot to maybe pull back and think like, all right, well, what did I used to do that made me feel good? Or like, what are some of the things that used to work to make me feel better, but that gets lost in the shuffle a lot of times. And so a lot of times, especially when I first meet someone and they're first coming to me, I talk about, all right, what's worked in the past and help them kind of remember what that's been. Because a lot of times it's something simple that people kind of just disregard. They don't even think about like it's like an actual thing that's like helped them. They're just like, oh, it's just something I used to do. It wasn't a big deal. An example I can think of that is with I used to have a supervisor when I first started working, and we had a training we did for motivational interviewing. No background behind motivational interviewing is talking to someone and figuring out their motivation to do something, but it's usually ran by the person you're talking to, right? You as a clinician or therapist aren't leading this; that person leading it. And my supervisor, we were working together, and so we were talking, and we were trying to figure out what could he do that makes him feel better in the daytime, right? Like what's something that he used to do because, you can be stressed out from the job. I was talking about like usually with me, I wake up early before I even come to work to do stuff I like to do. That might be watch TV, that might play video games. It all depends on what it is. And he started talking and he was like, you know what? One thing I used to do that really helped me a lot was meditate. And he's like, I'm not sure why I stopped meditating. I mean, he had a girlfriend, he's part of a band, so he probably just got busy. But the more he talked about it, the more he was like, actually, meditating like did a lot for me. Like he started to realize how important it was. Cause again, it was something he just was like, something I don't, oh yeah, I used to do this, it used to help. He was very nonchalant at first. But when he started talking about it and started thinking about the benefits, he was like, no, I'm gonna go back to meditating. And that's just all from just one question and him doing the whole journey by himself, basically, to get there of just like, this is something I used to do that I thought wasn't that important. But now when I reflect, it's extremely important. So he went back to meditating every day. He made time for that. In fact, not only did he meditate every day, right now, he's the director of a therapy office that does yoga and all types of other stuff. Like he does yoga, he does meditation periods there. It's like a mix of Eastern philosophies and therapy. And he runs a whole agency like that. And that's all they do. They have people from other countries come in and talk about the benefits of Eastern medicine, things like that, monthly. Like it literally repositioned him into a whole different phase of his career just from that little conversation.
Wow. So when we come back again with Aurelius Pugh, will be
Yes.
back. Okay, he Aurelius Pugh will be back, and we're going to delve a little bit deeper into that just as well too. And maybe we can reach out to this individual and have him call in, and maybe join us here on the show.
I can reach out to him. Yeah, I can reach out to Noel.
Okay, that'll be awesome.
He's a very interesting guy. Yeah, very interesting guy. Tattoos of like the third eye and pyramids on his palms. And he was like, I would never recommend anyone to do that. But like he was already kind of into Buddhism and things of that nature. So very interesting. He's a very interested dude.
Mhm.
Yes, please. If you are getting tattoos from other people's cultures, please know what you're putting on your body. Please do not put random words on your body. I have been so privileged as to tell people that what they have on themselves, and I had to do this once with like a person who was like, "Oh, what does this mean?" They asked me in Mandarin, and they told me what they thought it meant, and I was like, "No, that's not that at all." And they're like, "How do you know?" And I went, "Because I have the character. Because I read Chinese. It's on my hand." And they thought they had love. They did not. They had food.
Wow.
I was
So
like, "Do not do that. Know what you're getting on yourself, okay?" You just gotta throw that out there. Don't put other people's cultural symbols on yourself if you don't know what it means. You're in for a world of disappointment if you find out later that your tattoo artist, did you dirty.
wow,
Yeah, I mean, just saying, it's true. You don't wanna be stuck with something that you don't know what it means.
wow. And Angela, before we begin to end this episode, right? I would like for you to just give us a couple names of maybe one or two of the herbs and some of their benefits,
Okay,
right?
thyme, you can use thyme and make tea with it. If you have sinus congestion, um, it you can add some honey in there. You could use catmint if you are having difficulty sleeping. Not the same as catnip. It is in the similar family, but it has a minty taste to it with a slight aroma of what catnip smells like. But humans can have it. Just don't have it in large quantities, please. Anything, any and everything in moderation in general in life. Okay, everything is good for you out to a certain point, and then it is still not good for you. You can use, catnip actually too for sleep. A lot of people don't realize for what it does for cats and makes them all hyper and amped up, actually does the opposite for human beings. It works very similarly to valerian root, which
Mm.
you can
Hmm.
use. Marshmallow flower, if you enjoy, some kind of like, teas that are good for your throats, you can use marshmallow flower. It's very soothing if you're having like, throat pains. The marshmallow flower itself, when you steep it, sort of provides a lubrication for your throat. It not gonna lie, can feel a little slimy, like, in the sense of, like, if you're drinking it, like, not texturally, but, like, when you drink it, it feels like you're coated inside a little bit slimy, which makes sense because it's supposed to lubricate you when you're sick. Um, Turmeric and black pepper and ginger, I definitely love. I think those are great. They're great for inflammation. It's a natural way to bring down inflammation in your body, so if you're not feeling good, you can use that. Um Fun fact, potatoes are great for burns.
Oh,
If
wow.
you cut your hand or you burn yourself or anything, cut a potato and cut a potato slice and then just slap it on yourself. There's something within the enzymes of the potato, I forget exactly what it is, but it provides, benefits for your skin healing. Funny enough, they actually do that in hospitals with, like, fish skin. They'll take fish skin and they'll medically and hermetically clean it, and they use that for very severe burn victims because fish skin, particularly tilapia skin, can heal back onto humans. Do not go and take fish skin, guys, by yourself and slap it on yourself. That's only in the hospital, but you can use potatoes. Okay. But don't leave it on overnight. You also don't want to like fester bacteria. Okay. So please make sure it's clean. Trying to think of some other things that I use. As I said, the tomato leaves, you can use those. Citronella, the plants are great just for mosquito repellent, along with I usually grow lemon balm, basil, and rosemary as mosquito barriers on my balcony in the summer because I generally don't like dealing with DEET because what is it, perinthium or something? I forget how you pronounce that word, but it's such a strong chemical that we'll use it when we go camping, but I try not to use it in the household because then it spreads to everything in your house. You're rubbing it on things, you're putting your hands, and if you have pets in your house, I do have concerns for that. I personally have pets, so I do worry about that as well. With plants, I mean, lemon balm rubs on me, it rubs on the sofa. I'm not scared if my cat gets on it. Like, it's not going to kill her, but, a lot of DEET might. And with lemon balm, it's really great too because you can also use that as an herb. I like to personally chop mine up sometimes and just put it in my eggs. I do like an egg
Hmm.
whites with it in the
Wow.
morning. I just slice it up, put it in. It's actually very calming. So lemon balm has calming properties to it. So sometimes I'll steep a tea, but I like to start my morning with it. It like adds like a light citrus flavor to
Mm.
the egg white, like sort of omelet thing that I make, and it opens up and brightens the flavors. And I actually then throw in some chili oil on top of that after with a little garlic crunchy chili oil.
You're making me hungry.
Breakfast. So those are some of the herbs that I use, and that's just like the start of some of the things. Like lavender has a lot of properties that people like use. They think of it for relaxing, but you can use it for your food. You can cook with it. You can make cookies, breads, teas with it. You can also make like hairspray with it, which is really nice. Like if you sort of the same way that people make rosemary water to help like stimulate hair follicle growth, you can use that to just sort of like spray in your hair. It makes your hair smell nice.
So
So a lot of different things you can do with these herbs.
when we come back for the second episode of the Thought Exchange Health Corner, will you um will you give us the opportunity and the privilege of just kind of bringing in a few things and kind of giving us a little idea on how to prepare it and how to, you know,
Yeah.
use it just as well too. A realist, the same with you. When we come back, if you wouldn't mind, um, you know, engaging with us on a whole as to how we can bring this full circle and use it for better healing, better mental and emotional health and well being, if you don't
Uh,
mind.
sure. Gonna present your own items, correct? You'll also be doing this?
Yes, yes. So when we come back, I will be also bringing in a few things just as well too. Sea moss, moringa, and a few
Oh,
other
I love moringa.
of the herbs that I myself have been using for quite a while. And I can let you know some of the benefits at that time, but also I'll reveal my age too. Okay. So this has been a great episode, a great show. I've been looking forward to getting Angela and a realist here for quite some time. Right.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Well, I'm looking to have you back because I don't want to have, and don't y'all take this the wrong way, right? I'm gonna have to put a GPS on his car or something in order.
I know what you mean. He's very hard to locate.
Yeah, and I would to have.
For years, by the way.
Go ahead, say what you're gonna say.
None, like none at all. None. I'm
Yeah, okay.
just working. That's all that you see.
Goes MIA is what he does. So.
Working and helping my friends. That's all really happening.
Working, helping my friends, still answers the phone.
Yeah. Well, some must help our friends in different aspects. I'm on the phone with a friend. They're not here. They're Chicago. Like, I gotta use the phone for that. Like,
I enjoyed this time with the both of you.
Thank you.
And for me, it really has been life-changing for me. This moment with you, this moment with Aurelis, it's when you're able to be in the company of real people that have been through some things, but people who are also willing to share their true experience, strength, and hope. And, I believe we here at this table, we understand what energy and frequency and vibration is because you can when you get around someone, if the energy ain't right, you repel from that person. If the energy is good, you're attracted to that person. And just a little bit of background about me and a realist. I met realists. I was hearing about a realist Pew, and this was before I became part of Lena Park. And when I met a realist, it was just something about his energy, his authenticity that really I gravitated to him. I gravitated to him, and he can tell you this because every time I see him, I'm like, "Hey, realist, right?" And I know he sometimes I'd be like, "Okay, Tony, what's going on?" And he didn't. He has been the same person ever since. And meeting you today, once again, you brought a different flavor for me. You brought a different internal taste for me with just the knowledge and how you explain things. And you have something that is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And for your clients and for your practice, you brought something to that place. You brought something to your clients, and gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. So, in closing, is there something that you would like? Oh, wait, before we do that, we're going to let the audience know for sure that they will be back.
Yes, we will be back.
And I'm putting you
in charge of reining him in. Okay, I got you. I peeps, Tony. I got you. It's like herding cats, okay? I'd rather herd cats.
It's just a lot. It's just a lot. That's all. I'm trying, man. I am trying.
And we have fun here too, okay? So, yes, we have fun. So, in closing, Once again, I want to thank you, the audience, for giving us some of your time, but also just tuning into the Thought Exchange Cafe. If you have any questions, you have any concerns, you have anything that you would like for Angela or Arilis to talk about or discuss in the next episode, please send in your comments, send in your thoughts, send in what it is that you would like to hear or some of the things that you would like to know or for them to talk about. And we will definitely address that in the next episode. And once again, here at the Thought Exchange Cafe, we bring you educational, motivational, and inspirational content that you will be able to use and apply in your everyday life in order to better your life. So, once again, my name is Tony Davis, and I am grateful for this episode. And we look forward to seeing you again next time on a Thought Exchange Health Corner.